Kia ora, New Zealand. Welcome to Sweet Chain Live. This is episode 39. It's great to be here today. And we've got a great show for you today. But first up, I'd like to welcome my guest co-host this side, Ben Powlay. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening, Matt. How you going? I'm back in my small room, or am I just a big human? We didn't decide that.
We couldn't decide. Having met you, I think it's a little of column A and a little of column B. So, yeah, very good, very good. Okay, the show for you tonight, we've got hot scores coming up very soon. And then after that, we've got Roberts Krastins joining us, the New Zealand Disc Golf Tour Director. Lots of questions for him. And if you've got any questions yourself, pop them in the comments and we'll put them across to Roberts today. Then we've got Desert Island Disc Golf with Roberts as well. Ben's got some talking points that he wants to bring up. And then we've got upcoming events and our picks for Twizel this weekend, including a little bit of a rundown of what this tournament means to the New Zealand Tour, because it really could make a difference, the result of this tournament. So stay tuned for that a little bit later on. First up, it's hot scores. So starting down south in Invercargill, it's Levi Stout with the hot round at 15 under par. Well done to Levi, edging out Johnny Ferrari and his older brother Ethan in the deep south this week. Chingford, it's Team Sweet Chain's Andrew Fleming, who goes 8 under par. Congratulations, Andrew. And in Queenstown, Roberts Krastins, our guest later on, shot a 10 under par. Around the Gardens course. At Tucker Beach, it's David Keane who shoots 11 under par. He'll be hoping to take some of that form into Twizel this weekend. And at Ely Point, Ryan Cambridge shoots 4 under. Down at Lismore, Alexander Basford and Dom Hayden tie for the lead at 10 under. And 10 under is also the hot score for Callie Thompson, Ben Murray and Willie Taratina in Christchurch at Jelly Park. Across the city of Christchurch to Queen's Park Reserve, you got Willie Taratina and Ashton Clark, both shooting an 8 under par. And at Brooker Ave, it's that man, Ashton Clark. He's on a heater. He's on 7 under par. Ben, takes through the north.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, we're starting off with Bear Hampor, and we got our own Brady Kutch, more like the human highlight reel, with a -5. Down to Hikoikoi, we've got, again, more Sweet Chain. We've got Liz Mocha and Minky Vorster, but joined by Scott Woodhouse and Phil McLeod on a +2. At Harcourt, we've got Jack Mocha and Joel Simpson, both on evens. Linklater, we got Galal Brizel at -3. Flaxmere, Joshua Thorne with a -4. And Spa Park Red, Joshua Thorne again with a -1. And Nick Panu shaving 3 strokes off last week's hot score at McLaren with a -4.
-4 at McLaren's a very, very good score indeed. So well done to Nick. Down in Queenstown, the Struggle Street Meltdown reached its conclusion last Saturday. Chris Dixon shoots the hot round with a 9.52 rated 7 under par. But it's Morgan Hartfeld who takes out the league with the win. So congratulations, Morgan, for winning the inaugural PDGA sanctioned league in New Zealand, your own event. So very well done. Up in the capital, we also had the Berrenport 200, and Andy Davey shoots the hot round with a 9.94 rated 12 under. And can I say, 12 under par on the Champ and Chumps at Berrenport. For that to get 9.94 rated, quite frankly, is daylight robbery. So, but Andy, very, very good score there. We also saw the start of the newest league in Queenstown, Any Given Monday, which started last Monday. And again, it was Chris Dixon who shoots 9.77, 4 over par. I think the pars are right on there. I was a bit unsure, but 9.77 was his rated round. So well done to Chris. But also shout out to Morgan, who hits an ace on the first hole of the league. So well done to him. Right now it's time to bring in our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is the New Zealand Disc Golf Tour Director, Roberts Krastins. So welcome, Roberts.
Good evening, James. Good evening, everyone.
How are you doing? All right?
Doing all right. Yeah, just had a long day at work, so a bit tired, and got to get a bit of packing done before heading out to Twizel tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I mean, Twisel's looking like it's going to be quite the tournament. And with so many players in playing in an event, and with so much on the line at the top end as well, it's going to be interesting. We'll come onto a little bit of that in a moment. First up, you are responsible for drafting up the new New Zealand tour policy, which was recently published. Generally speaking, I think the vibe around the country is that people quite like it. Do you want to just sort of start at the beginning and tell us what were your thoughts going into the development of it, and what you were looking to achieve with the changes that you made?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I've also heard some quite good feedback from people generally liking it, and that's kind of what I expected, that there still be people questioning things, and that's kind of actually what I wanted to hear as well. That means people actually care, which in my mind is the most important part. People care about what's going on. People are interested in they're willing to put their time in, and that's what I welcome. So if you have any questions or suggestions, just hit me up at tour@nzbg.org.nz, and we'll talk about it. So because it's been we worked on it for quite some time, that's why it's kind of been a bit late. Initially I wanted to go get it done even before the Tucker Beach rush, so we can start off the season there, but kind of dragged out because we kind of realized well, if we're putting the time and effort in, we might as well do it right, or do the best that we can. Which is kind of the main idea that I had behind it as well. Obviously I wanted to change the dates for the tour season, which is part of what my manifesto said as well. In my mind, that's quite important to have the New Zealand summer to be in the middle of this, disc golf season. Otherwise, it just feels really awkward when you say, "Oh, it's Christmas now, middle of summer. Oh, it's time for our off season. Let's, hang up the discs and relax for one weekend, and then let's play again." Well, just, to me, it seemed quite wrong. So that's in my mind, that was sort of the biggest change. But then as we're sort of laying it down, it all sort of came down to like, oh, how about we, lay down the standards as well, which is something, there has been a bit of kickback about, which is something I want to touch on as well, is basically these standards are not something, they weren't there yesterday and tomorrow we expect everyone to absolutely nail them and, be up here. So we obviously have to start somewhere. So let's just work towards that, and see, actually maybe this was wrong. So something that we wrote down, it's like, it doesn't work. So we can work back on it, trace that back. Or if there's, if there's sort of this half of the season that's already, or the season that's just about to sort of keep going, sort of tickle over to the new one, let's just use that as a learning experience and see what we can do to get it better. So at the end of the day, the reason for the whole policy and the standards was just to make disc golf, at a higher level for the players. So that's kind of the main focus was in there for, make it better for the players, that they can, they know what to expect, sort of set the standards. Otherwise any event that, people play in the weekend, we could call it a New Zealand Tour event. But, we wanted that to actually mean something.
Yeah. No, I agree, and it's good to hear that there's not this sudden demand for a higher level that, as you say, many places may not be at yet. What I'd like to know is so you're responsible for the upholding of particular standards and the constant improvement. Is there a danger that the progress is slower than it might otherwise be if they're more guidelines than standards?
Yes, like obviously if they're just guidelines, then people like, I'll just do what I want. They don't mean anything. But at the same time, we got to balance the knife edge of not having that many tour directors that are even willing to put up events. So if we had like a massive, field of, a pool of 100 TDs that are willing to put up events, we had an event every weekend, then obviously we could pick and choose, this event is, the highest standard. Let's put that on the tour as a major, whatever. Whereas at the moment, the reality is we only have a handful of TDs around the country. Some of them run multiple events a year, and then to be saying, actually you have to do this, this, and this, or otherwise your events, don't count or whatever. it's kind of a balancing act at the moment. So that's why kind of we're starting here and then see where it leads and call them more guidelines and, full standard expectations. But at the same time, what I wanted to say to everyone as well is keep the communication channels open. So if there's any concerns you have about a tour event or whatever, something happening at events, just, bring it up. Let's talk about it and, see what we can learn from it and make it better next time.
One of the questions that did come up during the week and earlier on, actually on the preview post from Zach Taylor, and it's one that I put to you earlier on today, was around the groupings of players, especially in the first round of tournaments, and quite often they're mixed, where the PDGA standards, even in the international program guide, state that to the best of a TD's ability, they ought to be divisionalized, I guess, is if that's a word, and they should rather than random across all divisions. It strikes me as a quick win.
As in a quick win where? Not sure what you mean.
Well, as in it's relatively something that's easy to do. It doesn't rely on infrastructure or existing kit to be there. We can just say, look, these are the standards the PDGA have set. Let's hold ourselves to at least these standards when it comes to things like what starting holes people are on, right? Fairly easy to implement.
And I think that's becoming a lot more important that once we start doing tee times, that's what plays a major role. Like you can't split groups up from the same division, someone starting super early and someone starting the last card, which just wouldn't be fair, which is one thing. But at the same time, that's what PDGA, the international standards, recognize, that there's different sort of what you call traditions in different countries, which is something that New Zealand's done over the years. We've actually never used to even divisionalize final rounds. It would only be the overall, so if whatever division you were, you'd play, for the final round. You're in the lead card, doesn't matter what division you were, you'd play in there. So what the international guide says, basically, you cannot do that anymore in past round 2. So you can have round 2 seeded by score. You can also have round 1, obviously TD draw, but anything past round 3, if you have 4 rounds or 3 rounds, then round 3 and 4 have to be seeded by division. So if you only have 2 rounds in round 2, also has to be seeded by division. So obviously, like what you were saying as well, you shouldn't, split up the divisions in round 1. But I kind of see the reasoning why, some TDs do that around the country, because you want the newer players to experience be able to play these events and see how others, play and sort of have a bit more of a mingle, not just sort of lock it into the divisions. So I can see both sides. So I don't see, us forcing that onto TDs straight away to say, oh, actually, you have to be, division based. But at the same time, like I said, like if you're doing tee times, in my opinion, that's just a fair play that you have to be, based on division there.
Yeah. In your view, and I hope that you become this role of kind of the arbiter of who decides what's a tradition and who decides what is part of, I don't know, New Zealand disc golf culture and therefore acceptable because I want to do it this way. And does that in any way kind of go against kind of progression, I guess, and a desire to want to get us to a more, I mean, the reason why the PDGA standards are in place is to increase the professionalism and the marketability of disc golf, right? And so I guess my concern is too many TDs leaning on tradition too much, and how do you go about setting what should happen there?
That's a good point. Like someone has to be the person that says, well, actually, we've always done it this way, but how about we do it a better way? Which is part of the reason, the same thing that I did with the tour season. There's quite a lot of kickback there. Like, not everyone likes it that the season's changed, that, actually, it's the middle of summer. But, there's, in my mind, more pros to that than cons. It's just the never-ending story of people, I don't want to change. I like it exactly the way it is. But yeah, I don't know if there is a set person that would say, "Oh, this is tradition, this is not." But at the same time, I think the player is going to dictate where the sport goes, and the TDs will just have to catch up with that. So if the sport goes and more players say, "Oh, actually, let's just play divisionalized. I don't want to play with masters or juniors in my first round. Like I want to play with my divisions," and then I think that's fair. And if we have people bringing that up, then we can do something about it. Which is why I wanted to say again, let's talk about it. Like if we're not talking about it, if no one's coming up to people that have any say in this sort of policy, for example, then we're never going to know. That's why I was saying, like, if you have any concerns or questions, just come and talk to us.
Okay.
Can't please everyone. It's commented by Ryan, and it's kind of like aligned with what I've experienced. So playing a first round with an MPO player, with a professional player, I reckon I picked more up playing that one round than I have throwing discs into trees on my own for like 4 months. But I also understand there is the other side of the coin, where professional players don't want to, some might say, burdened with assisting a novice, a younger player. I guess when it comes to big changes, that's exactly as you touched on. All you can do is talk to people, get both sides of the coin, and then work out what you want to achieve and where you're going. And there's always going to be people who love a moan, but don't step up and do stuff. But if people are willing to step up and have reasonable arguments, then roll it out for a season, bring it back, roll out something new, try it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the point you're bringing as well is quite good. That if you have novices or recreational players, maybe it's not the best idea to put them on the same cards as the open top players. Maybe you can mix them up with some other advanced players that are not as competitive and not as super focused, where it won't break up their rounds as much or whatever. And it could be that the novices might not have the best round because the professional like open players might be just fully focused on their round, and the novice will feel like, oh, why is this guy a jerk? He's not not talking to anyone. He's just running away every time.
I can kind of see it. I don't want to labor this point for too long. I'll just make one final point on it that I can see both sides, but in certain situations, right? So I can remember playing in an ultimate tournament in the early to mid 2000s. And the team I was playing for got to nationals and was seeded 32nd. And we had to play in the first round the team who was seeded first, right? Which were the European champions at the time, Clapham Ultimate. And we played them and we scored the first point and it was amazing. And then we lost 15-1. And it was great, right? We got experience playing against the very top players in Europe. And that was fantastic. Every other tour event, we were seeded alongside teams that were of a similar strength to us. When it came to nationals, that was different. We got to play and experience players who were different. So is there an argument to say, well, okay, for the regular kind of grindy season ones, you play with your group because it's right that we play as many rounds as possible with people who are of a similar ability. But then in some rounds, in some tournaments, you open it up and say, okay, well, these are the random ones, but at least you're specific over them. I don't know. Just.
And I think it's kind of what it is at the moment. That's what PGA rules are. Like anything past round 2, you have to go by division. And the first round, the TD can go, oh, let's mix it up. Introduce the novice players to some people that can play better. But yeah, I agree. Like there's pros and cons, so it's something we can talk about more.
Okay, I want to come on to the points awarded for events, but before we do, Hemi's asked, and I wonder if you could clarify in maybe a sentence or two, why has the season been changed exactly? Because this will be a common question from people.
It's just to coincide with the summer, basically, to stop the end of season being in the middle of summer and then having a break between the seasons. And then also it will work better with the nationals and other majors coming down to the wire for the last events at the end of the season, rather than play national tournament first thing after the off season.
Right.
Well, people that just might not have had a chance to practice over winter or whatever. So yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense to me, to coincide more with the warmer weather, so we get better playing conditions, which would be more enjoyable for everybody, and also to place majors towards the end of the season rather than in perhaps the beginning and middle of the season.
Yep.
Okay, that seems fair. Now, going on talking about majors, they're worth 60 points. Regular events are worth 50 points. Now, this is something which I personally laboured a little bit a few weeks ago on the show. When Brady and I talked about the tour policy and how majors should be worth a little bit more. And on the Zoom call that was held last week, I think it was last week, you spoke in a little bit more detail about that. So can you cover a little bit more about the reasons for not changing the numbers here?
The main reason for not changing numbers, because I honestly didn't even think about the numbers. I had a lot more other things to think about. But after you brought it up last week, I had a little bit of a crunch of numbers to see what the difference might be. If I looked up at last year's season, 2020, and to change anything in the top 6, the majors would have to be worth 250 points.
Okay.
And that would only change Jacko and Mikey because they're so close. Like they're separated by 1 point if it's 60 point, and then if you dial it all the way up to 250, then Mikey just edges past Jacko. But anything else in the top 10 barely changes. There's some changes, like if you dial it up to 80 points, then there's some changes that people move around in the top 100. But I think it needs a bit more in-depth review of looking at divisions rather than fully overall positions, and see what other changes might be in other divisions. Which I think it would be the more important part there.
The interesting thing about the algorithm, and I've at the time a few weeks ago I said that I hadn't done any research into the algorithm. Well, fortunately, my data analytics team have taken the TPAD algorithm apart a little bit, and they can tell me that obviously it's a linear scale, right? So the difference in points between first and second is the difference in points between 51st and 52nd. So, and I would argue, should perhaps that be different? Should there be a bigger gap for winning, finishing second, third, fourth, whatever the top positions are, and then smaller gaps in points as you go further down? Given that the difference in winning a tournament, especially as we've seen recently with the fling going down to a one-shot difference, the charge being decided on a playoff, with so many close tournaments, the difference to win a tournament compared to finishing 50th and 51st is the same. Should that be changed?
That's a good question, and honestly, I don't know. Like the way I look at it is, if you finish second in an event where there's 40 players, or if you finish second in an event where there's 80 players, then it's quite obvious. The second in the 80-player event should have more value, which is what it is at the moment. It's marginal, obviously. It's not a very big difference, but you'd get 49 points in an 80-person tournament, and you get less than in in a 40-player case. But it would just become quite complicated. You'd have to look at it. Oh, okay, how do we do this? Do we award points? How do we split the gap? So we say, the first place or top 3 get this many, and the gap is this big. But again, that's something we can look into. And
yeah, I would say that would be a good thing to have a think about.
Sure.
Certainly. I've another question that came through during the week. What basket's being used at Moonbase this weekend? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure they're going to be helixes.
Oh, brilliant! Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So
pretty sure they have a set of 18, at least on the river course, set of 18 that are going to go into some other course, and they're going to use them there temporarily for the river course.
Fantastic. And in terms of the tiering of New Zealand tour events, how do you have any say on whether events are A tiers, B tiers, C tiers, or is that up to the tournament director?
No, that's entirely up to the TDs of what type of event they want to run.
Essentially, what pro person?
Yeah, I actually can't remember it on top of my head, but I believe for the majors we expect them to be at least a B tier. But again, it's not something that's set in stone.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, let's have a look if we've got any questions. We've had a lot of comments come through about people wanting to play. There's a little bit of a mix of comments, actually, about people wanting to play either in mixed divisions or in divisionalized divisions, if that makes sense.
Which is to be expected. People are different. People, want different things. So it's
absolutely
what Ben was saying. It's really hard to please everyone.
Excellent.
Yeah, some interesting discussions around proposed hybrid models around let the pros play the pros and let everybody else let the non-pros play together. Yeah, that could be quite interesting to
which is something that I think it's kind of going towards. And it's something that we're working on in the back end for the NZDG to allow BTs or alternative Ts, because at the moment we have juniors and women's grandmasters playing the same course as the men's open, which I don't think is right on the bigger courses, especially on the championship courses. The way we can get around it with the current point system is obviously splitting the event up into two events that the pros play the big course 60-pointer and then or 50-pointer, and then the others play like 40-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we might have a way around it.
And that happened earlier on in the year at Makariki and Middle-earth from memory as well. So, yeah, good stuff. So what's, in terms of your role as tour director, what comes next? What's for you between now and the end of your term in May? Or maybe not
first thing we've got to do is we've now published the tour policy, which involves having points calculated based on division. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the current tpad.org scoring system doesn't allow that. Mm-hmm. So we don't have the option of splitting everyone by division and say if you played Masters this week and then Open the next week, and all those points will still count the same way to the same person. But in the new policy way, it has to be split. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I'd be working on probably maybe even tomorrow night. I just need to get the ball rolling there. Then
what's the
we have match play. Sorry, what's that?
What's the process there then? Do you go out to tender for a T-pad replacement, or is it a development of
pretty
T-pad?
Much. Or? Not necessarily replacement. Like we're just going to go into an open tender. Send it out to all the members, send it out, put it on, some websites or something, ask people, do you know someone who's in IT? Talk to them. Maybe, they can help us out, which is something I've already done and approached some people. So we might have some options, but again, we'll just have it as an open tender. Like it's not right if I go, hey mate, do it for me and, we'll pay you this much. So open tender, everyone can apply, and I think that's the right way about it.
Absolutely. Sorry, you were talking about match play.
So that's the next thing I need to do. Like, honestly, I haven't had time to even think about match play, but that's something we need to incorporate. That's something that's not in the tour policy, but it will be a separate thing. And there's things we're thinking about how to make it more like exciting and more inviting to players, because before it's, more likely just the enthusiasts that want to go there, because it's not a tour event. It doesn't give you points or anything. It's just, something fun to do. But if we can put a carrot in there for more people to, attend, I think that would be more fun for everyone to play match play, which is fantastic. In itself, the format of playing match play is just something completely different. And I think more people should have a chance to enjoy that.
I totally agree. And it certainly makes for exciting viewing if you've watched any of the recent match play events on Disc Golf Network. Sure. So before I move on to Roberts the player, what is the what's the kind of final word? If people have got feedback for you or they've got questions around the tour policy, how should they reach out to you?
Yes, please do. Just send them to my Facebook. If you look me up on Facebook, well, the best way would probably be to the tour email. You can look it up on the NZDG website, or it's literally tour@nzdg.org.nz. A little pro tip for everyone as well. If you go to nzdg.org.nz, it'll take you to the website. I used to think that, you have to type the whole thing is newzealanddiscgolf.org.nz, but no, you can only type nzdg.org.nz and I'll take you right there.
Fantastic. Right, on to Roberts the player. You're playing in Twizel this weekend.
Yes.
You had a relatively good season, relatively solid.
Yeah, I'm actually honestly quite surprised myself because I've not really been thinking about it too much. That's kind of funny thing. When you look at the way that I've played most of the, well, not most, but quite a few of the events, there's that I get a really good first round, and then I freak out a little bit, get in my head, and then the second round it all crumbles, and I start to try and get up there. Like just one example, Paradise. Had a really good first round where I didn't really think about it too much, and then started thinking about it, and then started missing putts again, which has been basically my the sum of my season.
Yeah. Do you have a goal for this weekend?
Not really. Just have a bit of fun. Play some disc golf, which is kind of the way I've probably part of the reason why I've been playing a bit better is not to sort of burden myself. It's like, I have to, play really well or have to play to my rating or something. And that's something that I've been trying to work on this season. Limited success, I'd say. But yeah, I think like when you can relax, I think disc golf is a really very strong mental game, which is quite interesting because that's also part of the reason I played really bad on the final day in the Fling, because I was just really exhausted. We got up at 3:30 in the morning on Friday to get there for practice. We had a full day of practice on Friday. And then basically I had enough, juice in the brain to play one good round, and then that was it.
Yeah, mental fatigue and really does affect things. And the decision-making ability just can drop. I've experienced that myself.
Not just decision-making, just focusing of, my disc needs to go there, it needs to hit this gap, and by the time you reach back, it's like, where am I aiming again?
Yeah. I think that's something that everybody can relate to. Excellent stuff. Excellent. Now, we were talking prior to you coming on the show today about that you've got quite an interesting, at least one selection in your desert island disc selection. So we're going to move on to that now. So the premise for anybody who's new to the show is that Roberts is stranded on a desert island. Fortunately, there's a disc golf course on this desert island, and he's been stranded with 3 of his favorite discs and 3 of his favorite card mates. They can be celebrity players or people he knows or people who are dead or alive, whatever. So Roberts, what are you throwing at your desert island course?
So I was really lucky that 3 of my discs survived while I got stranded here. But yeah, go to probably be the Wysocki Pro Pig. Where's the camera? This way.
Very good.
This one's really beat in, so it's no longer really a peg. It's more like a glidey putter. It can go up to like 105 meters on a slight hyzer flip, just dead straight. It's really fun disc to play with. So anything inside 90 meters is probably my go-to. Another my sort of set of my go-tos. This is only one of them. I've got quite a few. It's my Star Destroyer. This is the way. My own little die job, but yeah, that's my sort of go-to for hyzer bombs and sort of longer distance shots.
So now,
but the one that I got you guys all excited for.
Sorry, every destroyer. Before we move on to that one, every destroyer flies slightly differently. So how does this one fly?
This one used to be only very specific, very overstable hyzer bombs. It's a whole 7 at Tucker Beach, just like over the top of the trees. I'd exclusively basically throw it only there. But it's hyzer bombed and dived into the ground enough times now that it's slightly more straight than overstable. So now I can actually throw it on distance shots as well. But I've got some pro destroyers that I recently got from Team Innova, which fly really nice and long distance. So that's kind of my more go-to.
And finally,
the one I got you guys all excited for. Did you expect to see this?
Is that a DX Leopard?
That's correct. It's a DX Leopard. Quite a few people probably that have played with me will know this. It's 166 gram. It's one of Lena's first discs. It's still got her name and number in there. I don't really throw that much, but when I do,
twist turns right over the minute it comes out your hand.
Exactly. Which is the whole point of it. And it's actually got a secret pocket in the back of the bag, like by the back where the rain cover goes. So I just put it in there. And it's kind of my get out of jail free card where you have nothing else, but you can get a stance out to the side and throw a flick roller on a hyzer that will turn over and go and roll. So I've actually some like obviously limited success, but I've actually gotten out of jail, successfully. And when I go to throw this disc, I'm in, deep trouble, but this disc puts a smile on my face because I know it's going to be fun. It's going to do something weird.
Good stuff. And so you bought a disc that's going to get you out of trouble onto a desert island, which suggests that you believe that you'll get in trouble on a desert island. So that's
not just get in trouble. I think that's just a fun disc to throw. You can throw it on a hyzer bomb angle, and it's just going to fly like a grenade. It's awesome.
Oh wow, excellent, good stuff. And who are you playing with? Who are your free players?
I haven't had enough time to think about it too much, but I'll play with my wife, Lena. And probably make it more entertaining. We'll play with Simon Lazat and Calvin Heimberg, the two pros that I think would be quite entertaining to play with.
I'd like to see Simon throw that leopard.
Yeah. Yes. Or Calvin, both of them. Completely decimated.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what would happen to it. It
would just fly like a spiral, I'd say. I think Simon throws like the D-line FDs, which would probably be similar to this.
Good stuff. Now we've got our quick fire rounds now. Now, by popular demand, Ben's demand, he's asked to do the Safari back nine. So he'll be doing those questions. So I'm going to go through the family friendly front nine. Same questions every week for every person. Are you ready?
Yes.
Excellent. What's your name?
Robert.
Where were you born?
Valmiera, Latvia.
Where do you live?
I live in Queenstown, New Zealand.
What's your PDGA number?
94860.
How many years have you been playing?
4.
Favorite disc, sorry?
Star Destroyer.
Favorite course?
Turkey Beach.
Favorite MPO player?
No, Calvin Heimberg.
Favorite FPO player?
Corner Panis.
Very good. Over to you, Ben.
All right, excellent. Are you ready?
Ready, shoot.
Sorry if I get your band, Matt. All right, putter or driver?
Driver.
Cold winter or warm winter?
Cold winter with lots of snow.
Beautiful, good. That was a trick one. Forehand or backhand?
Backhand.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Ooh. Moving baskets while you're putting or a treadmill on the tee pad?
Ooh, treadmill.
Nice. Grenade or tomahawk?
Grenade.
Golf course or woodlands course?
Golf course.
Hyzer or Anheuser?
Hyzer.
Levi or Jackson to win the tour?
Ooh, Levi.
Very good. And we'll see what happens. Actually, we've got some. As I said, we've taken apart the T-pad algorithm. And we'll get on to the if, buts, and maybes of this weekend shortly. But Robert, thank you so much for coming on this evening and giving us some very useful information on the tour policy. For talking to us a little bit more about it. It's always a pleasure to have members of the New Zealand Disc Golf Board on the show. And so, great to see you and best of luck this weekend. And I'm sure we'll speak to you again.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Ben. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Robert. Excellent. Now, Ben, what have we got this week?
This week's just a little quick one. But, I'd like to see more pure international events. So I know there's been pros come across to Australia. There's, as we were talking earlier, there's the Japanese Open, and obviously a lot of the New Zealand Kiwi boys come across to Australia Open on normal years. But where's what I'd love to see is more country representation. So like let's bring in a Trans-Tasman. Let's have a good old
like a Ryder Cup kind of idea.
Yeah, I'd love to see a Europe versus US. I'd love to see an Australia versus New Zealand. I'd love to be able to like back my country, and I know they do a bit in Europe, but I think they like roll it into the European Championships where countries get a set amount of players, and congratulations, you're there to represent yourself, but also secondary, you're like, well done, you're representing Great Britain or Estonia. But let's now the sport's getting more money, let's start rolling out some good old-fashioned rivalries. But I guess the issues for that is the travel, the courses, and how do you select the players? Is it the tour winnings? Is it a poll?
Well, that's right. Hey, and by the way, I love the idea. I think it would be good, and I think it would be very fun to watch New Zealand disc golf kick those dirty Aussies, quite frankly. And the not just as an Englishman saying that, but let's put COVID aside and assume that we can all travel and do things normally. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one how you'd go around about picking the players. I mean, Bob Gentle on the show a few weeks ago talked about how New Zealand qualified for the World Games, and they got to pick players, and they held a variety of tournaments. Maybe you'd run a qualification event or something similar to do that. Yeah, I like the idea of a Ryder Cup kind of themed kind of thing, where players take each other on in a variety of different ways, match play and stroke play, and gain points for their country. I quite like that idea, and then maybe move it around the country a little bit in a kind of festival of disc golf over a fortnight or something. Sounds like it would be a good one.
Get some Ashes. 1 year Australia, 1 year UK. We'll just make an excuse to go home, and
it would be fantastic. I'm not really all that on top of the disc golf scene in the UK, so I couldn't tell you how kind of mature it is in comparison to countries that I more know about. So if anyone does know, then let me know. I need to do some research into that. Good stuff. That's an interesting one. And maybe when COVID does look like it's disappearing, we'll see that. Certainly want to make sure that you guys can come across more often to New Zealand tournaments, and as soon as I can make it over to Australia to play in some tournaments, then certainly would do.
Absolutely, I'm gonna come across and steal a few purses.
Very good. Now, in talking about purses and getting the very elite level and the top end of the game, the New Zealand Disc Golf Tour could come to an end this weekend. And the number bods here at Sweet Chain Music have been looking up the if, buts, and maybes to see what could happen. Okay, so but first of all, let's just go through some up and coming events, and then we're going to go through our picks for Twizel in a moment. So upcoming events is Moonbase Twizel this weekend. If you're in the capital, you can come to Heiser at Harcourt Park. Then the Wellington Midweek Spring League kicks off in November. Let me know if you want to play in that event. It's every Wednesday at Harcourt Park for some sanctioned disc golf. It's going to be great fun. And then on the weekend of the 6th and the 7th, the Tauranga Extreme has been cancelled. Not postponed, but cancelled. So it won't be making a return. And what that does is it means that this weekend there's perhaps it's taken an opportunity away from someone, and it's taken away more of an opportunity from someone else, which we'll get to shortly. Week after that is Bros for Change Charity Classic in Christchurch. Weekend after that, Fault Line Fury in Wellington. I think we might be fully booked for that, up to 90 players, which is going to be fantastic. Really looking forward to that event. And then Wahitapu the weekend after in November, and then finally the match play that Roberts was alluding to earlier on. There's been no change in the rankings, in the Sweet Chain rankings since last we spoke, but there will be a change after Twizel. So Twizel is an eligible event, so we'll have the changes that we get after that event. And talking about Twizel, so we the Sweet Chain Music stats team have been going through the New Zealand tour on TPAD, and basically it comes down to 3 players. There are 3 players who can currently win the New Zealand tour, as far as we can work out. If there's anybody who does spot an error in my maths, then please let me know. But I double checked this, and I think I'm fairly sure. So the 3 players who are left in it: Jackson Sullivan, Levi Stout, and Justin Workman. And here's how it works. Okay, for this weekend, if Levi finishes in the top 2 at Moonbase, Levi wins the New Zealand tour. Okay, irrelevant of what Jackson does at Faultline or at Wahitapu. If Levi finishes outside the top 6 at Moonbase, then Jackson wins the New Zealand tour. Levi's not registered for any more events this year. Jackson's got Faultline and Wahitapu to go. If Levi finishes 3rd to 6th at Moonbase, then we go to Faultline and or Wahitapu, and it then depends on the result that Jackson picks up there as to whether he takes it out. But something to bear in mind, that if Justin can get a spot at Faultline or Wahitapu and takes 7th place or better, then Justin will take out the tour. So there's a few if, buts, and maybes to come this weekend, with a few things up for grabs. So we'll see how that goes. Ben, who have you got as your picks for this weekend?
All right, here we go. And drop a comment if I've got it right. I reckon I do. So I've got number 1. I've got Mikey Yu. I reckon he's going to go back to back. Number 2.
He's got history in this event. He won the MPO division in 2019, so that's a very solid pick. Yep.
Yeah, I just knows how to perform in those big situations. I've got our friend Jasper Vandermeer at number 2. I'm backing him.
Yeah.
Come on, look good, look confident. So
yeah, totally. And if you saw the coverage from Flexline Media, which came out during the week, of the Charters Bay Charge, go over to their YouTube account and check that out. Of course, you're already subscribed, so you know about that. But if you aren't already, then go over, because it's some great coverage. So what else have you got?
Number 3, he's giving me a bit of abuse on the comments, so I'm tempted to knock him out. We've got Stephen Reed coming in there.
Again, someone who's got history in this tournament, finished 2nd in 2019 and has been playing well recently, won at Timaru.
It's like I've gone back a few years and just worked out who can play this tour. Number 4, I've got Ashton. Can't read my writing. Is that Clark?
Ashton Clark. Yeah, Ashton Clark won the fling last weekend and finished 2nd at the Rampage and 3rd at the Charge.
It's on form. And then number 5, I've got our good friend Andrew Fleming.
Oh wow! Yes. Yes.
He's in the Discord. He's feeling good. I'd love to see him do well. Yeah,
I would love that as well. That would be brilliant. That would be absolutely fantastic. No, good top 5 there. I've gone with no Levi in your top 5 actually, which is interesting.
So, and of RPM. So yeah.
So I've gone for, in 5th place, Stephen Reed. Again, we spoke just now. His performances recently have been very good, and finished 2nd at this tournament in the MPO division 2 years ago. I've got Ethan Stout. I reckon he's going to make a bounce back. Didn't finish well at the fling, but I reckon he'll bounce back to finish in 4th. Mikey Yu, I've got in 3rd place. Again, we've not really seen him recently near the top, but yeah, I've got him to finish 3rd. Ashton, I've got to take out 2nd place off the back of being on a bit of a heater recently. I think he's going to do well. I've got Levi Stout to take out the win and take out the tour this weekend. Very best of luck, Levi, this weekend. I'll be cheering you on from Wellington all weekend. I hope you do well. Over in FPO, so for my top 3 in FPO, I've got Hayley Flintoft to win it. She's playing in the MPO division this weekend. So if you looking for her name, that's where you'll find her. I've got Eilish to come in second place and Stephanie Stridham to come third. Ben, do you have any differences?
No, you could probably, if you read my handwriting, I have exactly the same 3 picks.
You got exactly the same as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we shall see. We shall see how they all get on this weekend. That's our picks. There's plenty on the line for the Twizel Moonbase this weekend. So we'll look forward to that. Very best of luck to everybody playing at Twizel this weekend. Particularly good luck to Andrew Fleming, Team Sweet Chains Andrew Fleming. I hope he does very well, and also to Levi Stout, who could close out the New Zealand tour and put that one to bed. So very best of luck. Ben, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much also for the last couple of weeks. This is your last show with us for now. We'll speak to you again, I'm sure. But it's been a pleasure having you on and having your Australian/British point of view. Yes, and we've enjoyed seeing you coming from your very small room.
Thanks for having me, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks to everybody in the comments for trying to make me slip up and keep a straight face. Yeah, it's not a Loft t-shirt; it's a Clothing the Gaps t-shirt. Google them, free the flag, and it's a slanted room.
Good stuff. Thanks very much, Ben. Thanks very much, everyone. See you later. See you next week. Take care.